I'm an idiot. Oh well. Shit happens, and that's not a surprise. So, yeah, third topic tonight, we're going to start right now, is Crunchtime. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you very much for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. This episode, we are talking about Crunchtime in video games with developers. And possibly, like, if you work at a job, too, where you've got, like, major deadlines that you have to hit, what does that crunch time mean to you? But specifically, I want to discuss it in video games because there's not a lot known, right, about what crunch time actually means. But we hear horror stories about developers, having to sleep in their offices and not being able to get showers and, whatever. And I always draw the parallel, if you've ever seen the movie The Martian with Matt Damon, when he's trapped and you see like Donald Glover's character, that's what I assume crunch time for game developers is, right? Like you're sleeping in your office, you're not showering, you're not eating healthy, you're just drinking coffee and soda and eating sugar stuff to try to stay awake, and you never get to leave the office. And that's kind of the mindset that I always had. So when like Cyberpunk got delayed and everybody was applauding it and saying, yay, delay the game, that's awesome, that way developers don't have to deal with crunch time, we get the game when it's done, right? Because we don't get the game rushed, so hopefully it's not as bad as it would have been if it just gets pushed through and it gets rushed. But also, yay, because now the developers won't have to deal with that crunch time. And then what, Dying Light 2, I think, was the other game that got delayed almost at about the same time. And people said the same thing. Yay, no crunch time. And then an article came out that said, no, actually, the developers for Cyberpunk, essentially, instead of just, like, if the game was supposed to come out in April, they'd have 3 or 4 months of crunch time. Now it got pushed back to September. Now it's going to be 6 months of crunch time. And everybody was like, oh, shit, that sucks for them. 6 months of not being able to go home and showering with, wet wipes in an office. Man, that sucks. That's bullshit. The game industry sucks. We need to fix it. Yeah. What is crunch time? Who knows? It is I wish I had connections to actually have discussions with developers. I really, really do. I wish I had those connections. I wish I knew who to reach out to. I don't even know who to try to ask to get a hold of these things. Like I want so badly to be able to interview some developers and stuff, but I'm afraid. Like I don't even know where to even go out and try to find that stuff. Okay, so this is why this topic came up. This was a tweet made by Augmented Smurf, who actually made the overlay that you guys are seeing right now. I love it. But anyway, this was from an article that he read. It says, Bungie is known for its periods of crunch. Engineering boss Luke Timmons recalled to GL.biz in 2017 how the 18 months leading up to the release of Halo 2 were brutal and nearly destroyed Bungie. The developer was crunching for nearly the entire 18 months, he said, and during that time, developers were spending at least 50 hours per week at work. 50 whole hours? How did they survive? How did they survive 50 whole hours? I mean, that's a 5 and a 0, folks. That's 50 whole hours. We're not talking about 50 half hours, right? We're talking about 50 whole hours. How does anybody work 50 whole hours a week for 18 months? I'll tell you what, ask any fucking retail manager, because they've probably worked 50 or 60 hours every goddamn day for every year that they've worked in retail. That shit is not crunch time. So if that's the kind of crunch time that people are whining and crying about when it comes to like Cyberpunk or any of these other games, sorry, I got no sympathy for them. I haven't had a day off in about 3 weeks. Gail, I'm feeling you. 40 hours a week is normal. I get that. And so 50 hours definitely is extra. But But you also take into consideration then if you're working an extra 10 hours, most likely, now I don't know if these people are salary or not, but most likely they probably get some kind of overtime compensation, whether it's actual pay boosts or whether it's through extra vacation time or something like that, right? Because a lot of these places, even if your salary, you still accrue vacation based on your hours worked or based on your weeks worked or whatever. And so, like when I was at Walgreens, for instance, I was a manager at Walgreens for almost 10 years, about 9, but I was a manager with them. I started off as an EXA, and I was a salaried manager. So I was salaried, which was great on weeks that occasionally I would only have to work 40, 45 hours. But around Christmas time, when I was working 50 to 60 hours and 6-day work weeks and having to work holidays and having to work weekends and having to work midnights when I worked at 24-hour stores, I didn't make a fucking extra penny when I was overtime. When I would work 50, 60 hours, I wouldn't make anything extra. Nothing. My paycheck stayed the exact same. The only thing I got was for our crunch time every single year, mind you. That was from a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving and a couple of weeks before Black Friday, all the way through like the beginning of February. We got to take, I mean, this is huge. This is huge. You guys should sit down. You should brace yourself. We got to take for all of those extra hours, right? An extra 20 hours a week, 6 days a week, right? We only got in that time, right? If you just take November, December, January, that 3 months, that's 12 weeks. We only got 12 days off over those 3 months, which are the busiest 3 months. We got to take, hold on, it's going to be hard for me to even say it. We got to take one 4-day weekend. I mean, can you imagine getting a 4-day weekend? Holy, that's like jerk out. No, man, that's bullshit. And I did that every year for almost 10 years. So no, I don't feel a lot of sympathy for game developers if it's what this is. I've also heard some other big, stories that it's, 70 to 80 hours a week. It's 6 to 7 days, that they don't get to leave. And then it does get closer to that Martian situation, like in that movie. And if that's what crunch time is, then yeah, fuck that. Those people need to either find other better jobs or the industry needs to change. I don't think it's that though, because we don't hear a whole lot of stories about that. You work weekends too? Yeah, no, Tokyo, I totally get. I worked weekends for, almost my entire life. I worked retail manager for almost 20 years. And in that 20 years, the low end of my schedule was 45 hours. When I was at FYE for 4 years, again, over Christmas time, mandatory 6-day weeks. I still had to work Sundays in that time. I was allowed to have one Sunday off per month, so I had to work every weekend. It was mandatory that I work every Friday night, or I had to close either Friday night or Saturday night every single week. I could not leave before 6 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday. And once we got into December, I could not leave before 7 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday. And we had to work minimum, God, what was it? I think it was 58 hours, 55 hours, something like that. And it was 6 days. So and I did that for 4 years, every single holiday. Game delays can be good and bad. Good as in it allows them to get it right and deliver a better game. Right, no, 100%. But also bad because now they're putting their expectations too high and putting pressure on it. See, I don't know that it increases my expectations for Cyberpunk didn't go up because they delayed it. I mean, I guess now I expect at least bare minimum a non-buggy shit experience. So, I mean, I just expect that at launch anyway. I think if there is a lot of bugs or issues with launch, yeah, maybe it will set those expectations and give them a little bit more shit. 50 hours a week ain't nothing these days. No, it really isn't. But that's another discussion in and of itself, is that how much we as humans and as society have been programmed by the capitalist machine that is our society, right? If you would have thought, or if you could take a time machine back to like the 40s or 50s and you talk about somebody working 50 hours, they'd probably have a heart attack, right? They probably would. And now it's just fucking expected. It's 50 hours, that's nothing. 80 hours, that's nothing. You know, you hear like Elon Musk talk that, you know, he's constantly putting in 80, 90 hour weeks. And like it's nothing. Like that's what's expected. You start work at 6 a.m. I can even function before 10. Most young people today. Oh, you can't even function before 10 a.m.? Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. No, I can't say it. My boss might be in chat. I don't think he's in chat. But, like, I start work at 7. If I get there at 7. And my job now is super, super lenient. So, like, they don't necessarily care what time I punch in as long as I am there. And if I punch in at 7, I'm not doing an absolute bit of work until 7:15, 7:20. And that first 40 minutes is really, really laid back. I'm trying to find what podcast I'm going to listen to. You know, I'm dicking around. I'm getting my job ready, getting my area ready, rebooting my computer. Like, there's all kinds of stuff that go into milking that first hour, hour and a half. And then I work hard for about an hour. And then, you know, take 10, 15 minutes off. But I've always been that type. I've always been the type that works in bursts. And I don't know that you can do that as a developer. I don't know that you can. But then again, maybe you can, right? I don't know, because I don't know what it's like to be a developer. So I don't know if that crunch time is them sitting at their desk and like going over code. And if that's the case, I'm quite sure you could probably sit there for an hour or two and not actually do a goddamn thing. And just make it look like you're doing shit. I don't think that happens too much, but it might, right? If you're pushed too far. And that's the other thing. This is why I don't think, and again, I don't know any developers. I would love to talk to some. If anybody watching this is a developer, please reach out. I literally would love to clear up some of my misconceptions and get a better idea of this. But like, it almost tells me that's why crunch time isn't as bad, because like, if you are a programmer or a coder, and you're just looking at line after line after line after line after line of code, and you're on an 18-hour a day, and your eyes are fucking twitching because you're just coked up on fucking Mountain Dew and Red Bulls and fucking Monsters and whatever else you have, dude, how can you even read your code? How can you do an effective job at what you're supposed to do if you can't see straight, right? Which can happen because you're tired, or it can happen because you're so coked up on fucking energy drinks just to try to stay awake. So I don't understand, you know, how they could force those super long hours without sleep, right? Because if you don't, they've said that sleep deprivation, I've read this in multiple places, that sleep deprivation is just as dangerous for drivers as being drunk. You know, if you go a certain amount of hours without sleep and you get behind the wheel of a car, the effects on your brain and on your reflexes and everything else are the same as you being legally drunk, right? If you blow in a breathalyzer, you're not going to be illegal, but the effects within your brain are the exact same. So are those developers going to allow, or are the game companies going to allow their developers to come in fucking drunk? No. So why will they let them work being sleep deprived? And this is what it seems to me that even if they are forcing 50, 60 hour weeks, yeah, it isn't that much. But anyway, even if they are forcing, let's even say 80 hour weeks, why? It seems like you would get more productivity out of one person working 40 to 45 hours and getting good night's sleep and getting family time and everything else than you will if you're pushing them to work 80 hours. Because when I have to work 60, 70 hour weeks, dude, I guarantee you 30 to 40 out of those hours are nothing's getting done. And if something does get done, it's not getting done very well. Crunch time is why games have issues on launch. I completely agree, Gail. I'm willing to bet, that's total speculation, but I'm willing to bet that causes a ton of those launch day. You know, they're trying to crunch to get shit done, right? Because the game isn't finished, but then they're also making mistakes because of the crunch time. They're also being forced to work harder, longer hours, sleep deprived, eyes going crazy on energy drinks. Crunch time is by far the worst thing you've heard of in the game industry? Well, Threshold, would you be surprised then to see this? Oops, I lost it. God dang it. Would you then be surprised to see this, Threshold? Bungie is known for its periods of crunch. Engineering boss Luke Timmons recalled to GL Biz in 2017 how the 18 months leading up to the release of Halo 2 in 2004 were brutal and nearly destroyed Bungie. The developer was crunching for nearly the entire 18 months. He said during that time, developers were spending at least 50 whole hours per week at work. So, granted, that's 2004. That's 15 years ago. So there's also the possibility that maybe that's up to 60 hours a week now. Maybe it's 70. And again, that being one situation does not mean that all crunch time is the same. But that's why I want to talk to a developer. I want to be able to talk to a developer for one of these companies to totally understand what it is. The combat itself in Anthem was awesome. Everything else felt way too short. Yeah, but a lot of Anthem, I don't think that had anything to do with crunch time. I think Anthem's issues went back to the fact that, you know, a year before the launch of the game, they still didn't have a good direction on that game. Not surprised at all. Mismanagement leads to punishment of the workers. Yeah, I don't even know if it's mismanagement, though. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that go into why they have crunch time, right? I think the publishers are pushing dates that may or may not be realistic. In Anthem's case, the team leads were getting changed over. The narrative got changed. All of the writers either quit or got fired, right? Because Drew Kapshin, the dude that wrote all the Star Wars books, Kapsation, I don't know, whatever. His last name sounds like an ointment. He wrote a bunch of Star Wars books. He was one of the lead writers on Anthem, and either got fired or quit like a year or 2 years before the game came out. And it was like, no, we've got all our narratives done. Wait, how the fuck do you have all of your writing done for your game 2 years ahead of time? And then all these reports come out after, in the fallout of what happened at the launch of Anthem, that like they didn't even have flying as like a set in stone part of that game until I think it was 6 months or a year before that game launched. Like flying wasn't even set. Like, and that only happened because one guy, one bigwig at EA or whatever, saw it, loved it so much that he was like, no, that has to be in there. Well, we're not sure if we're going to have it in there or not. No, that needs to be in there. That's cool. And that's the only reason Flight was even in that game. Looking for a few, grabbing food. No worries, Gale. Heard flying, then not flying, got flip-flopped twice. Yeah, they were constantly going back and forth on it. And so, like, I think part of the issue with crunch, and part of that problem lies in the hands of the publishers, right? Because the publisher is setting deadlines for games that may not be realistic. Part of it is the fact that, like, we watched last segment, if you're watching this on YouTube, last video, we watched the E3 launch trailer for the Division back in 2013. Those expectations that set were completely impossible to meet because the tech didn't exist. They could not do that. But they make this trailer that people get hyped up for with the intention of getting the game there. But then you get to, 6 months, a year before release, 2 years before release, however long, you get to a certain point, and they're like, fuck, man, we can't do this. Like, the tech does not exist to make this game like this. Even if we had all the time in the world, and we have to get this game out in 6 months or a year or whatever. And so then they try to crunch to get there. More mistakes made, like Gale said. A comma in the wrong place could destroy an entire game system. And then you've got these guys in guys and gals in crunch time trying to do this and making mistakes and doing this and doing that, all to try to hit a deadline that was probably not a great one set in the first place, to create something that's completely impossible to create. Yeah, and that's the thing. Threshold, when you look at, like, and even, was it 2017? Anthem launched in 2019. Yeah, it was 2017 E3, I think, when they first showed Anthem off. That entire game trailer said captured from in-game footage. That was complete bullshit. That game didn't even exist at that point. That was completely created using the engine for that trailer. None of that was actually the game. And when you look at what Anthem launched as, like, people make fun of The Division and talk shit about The Division all the time for having that visual downgrade. And well deserved, because there was a lot that they teased and promised with The Division that they didn't come through on, and then it got better for Division 2, but there was still a little bit. Anthem is a completely different fucking game than what they promised it would be. And it looks, and that's not even just saying, hey, we've got this idea for this game that we want to do. That was just complete bullshit. They still didn't know what kind of game they wanted to make at that time. I played Anthem. I thought Anthem was fun as hell. I feel bad because I think I convinced Gale to get Anthem. And then he fucking regretted it like 3 days after launch. Because I got the beta, and I love the beta, so I actually pre-ordered it, and I got early release, and then I played the bejesus out of it. I was having so much fun. I couldn't wait for that damn game to launch. And then the game launched. I had a ton of fun, and then, man, this is going to be a topic for next week. And I don't want to get it too much into it right now, but then I started seeing stuff online. I started seeing this person talk about that, and then I would notice it in game, and then Gale would say something, and I would notice it in game, and then the more I noticed it in game, the more I picked up, oh yeah, no, this isn't, oh yeah, no, this sucks. And it's like each one of those is a tiny thread, and the more you start pulling them, the entire sweater fucking comes apart. When do you think we'll get the Elden Ring game? What? I don't even know what Elden Ring is, Robert. I have no idea. What's Elden Ring? Back in the golden age of games in the 90s, you didn't know jack shit what games were coming out till you saw it in store. Yes and no. I mean, they still had E3, but you didn't have the internet, right? And so a lot of what you knew about these games, you might see something on, like, when G4 existed, right, that channel. You might have a video game show here and there, but a lot of what you knew about games was in print media, right? So you would get a screenshot, and that's it, right? You'd get a picture and then a write-up of what it is. Now, if they described that Division trailer that we watched last segment, if you watch that Division trailer, if you're an author and you write that, and then you write up a write-up for, fucking Nintendo Weekly or whatever, that's a terrible example because that game's not even on Nintendo. But anyway, for Power Gamer, Gamer Monthly, what the hell, PC Gamer, right? Let's say you write up that review for PC Gamer. Oh, the game looks beautiful, blah, 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 blah. And then you get the original Division, you would think you're playing the same game because the game was beautiful. It was just nowhere near as beautiful as Division was in that trailer. And that's the biggest issue, right? Is what we as consumers get to see before a game comes out. We see it. So we see what they're trying to pitch and where their level of bullshit falls. G4 didn't exist till the 2000s. Man, was that really that long ago? But anyway, you get my point, right? There was probably some kind of video game show somewhere where there was videos or whatever, but almost everything that we knew about video games at that point was in print media. And so print media, when you're describing something and then you get the game afterwards, and like you might have one picture, so that you can compare that picture to what you're actually playing, but like that's not gonna, like, one still shot, like even those pictures that we showed of the Division 2, they specifically said that nightclub screenshot that they posted does not do the visuals in game justice, right? So that's the thing. You would get that screenshot and it might look amazing, and then you get the game and it looks even better because of the way that things are rendered in game. I'm the same, Django, set the difficulty to normal so I can enjoy 100%. That's why, like, when I'm playing UFC and people come in and they're like, yo, what difficulty you on? And I'm like, normal. And they're like, pussy. And I'm like, fuck you. I have fun with this. Like, I'm not sitting here trying to prove that I'm the best at beating up, a computerized version of, Georges St. Pierre on God mode. Nope. I want to seriously pick that dude up, throw him around the ring, bloody his nose, break his nose, have my shorts covered in blood by the end of the game, and or submit him in 30 seconds. Like, I won't put it on easy because then that's no challenge and that's just stupid. But, like, that's dumb to me in that game at least. But, like, I want it to be a little bit fun, right? I don't want to just hit every single thing and one-hit knockout people. That's not fun. But at the same time, I don't want to put it on super hard, and anytime I try to punch, it gets blocked, and I have to pull off a perfect 4-punch combo to try to do, this much damage that then gets healed in half a second. That's not what's fun to me. I get that tons of people love it. Yo, what's up, Mo? How are you doing? I get that like tons of people like it. Tons of people like it. And I think games should be developed for those people. I absolutely do. I think games should be harder for those people because there's a lot of people that do enjoy games like that. I'm just not one of them. And one of my favorite things about Star Wars was actually when you look at the difficulty, it actually shows you why it's more difficult or easier. But yeah, so that's the thing with Crunchtime. I'm really curious. And again, if anybody here knows any developers, like personally, or is on like a conversation, like first name basis with them or something like that, please reach out either to me and let me know how I might be able to get in contact with them, or get in contact with them and see if they'll get in contact with me, because I don't know how to reach out and do that other than like posting a thing in Twitter about like, hey, and tagging like all the developers I know and like, hey, is there any way I could get an interview? And like that just seems shitty and stupid and I don't want to do it. Not only that, because if I have an original idea that I want to talk to somebody at, I don't want to go posting it on Twitter, because all Twitter is going to be is like people thieving fucking ideas left and goddamn right. Which is why I'm so desperate for this. Because I know somebody's going to take that idea and probably do it first. But I need help with it. Which is why I actually announced today, if I can get one verified $500 a tip for that, I'll tattoo that person's name on my ass. I have to wait minimum 6 months because I need to make sure that it doesn't get bounced back at them. But there you go. I will tattoo your name on my ass. You give me $500 towards the Falcon. My name on your ass, dude. I will. I swear to Christ. If somebody gives me $500 towards the Millennium Falcon Lego build, I will tattoo their name on my ass. Like I said, I have to wait minimum 6 months because I have to get it past the point that they could do a chargeback. But yes, 100%. Sad Gotti, thank you very much for being here, dude. You are amazing and awesome. If you weren't moving, I would drop it. I wouldn't ask you to. I know you got a lot going on. But anyway, if you've been watching this on YouTube, thank you very much for being here. If you're here on Twitch, hang tight. We're going to move to free-for-all right now, where we'll just talk about anything and everything. You guys can ask me questions. We can talk about whatever the hell you guys want. But if you are watching this on YouTube, thank you very much for being here. We do this every Wednesday, starts at 7 p.m. on Twitch. We've got 3 topics. It's called This Week in Geek. 3 topics, 1 topic every 30 minutes, which are the videos that you watch on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday here on YouTube. Thank you very much for being here. If you do want to join the conversation, the free-for-all does stay Twitch exclusive. So if you do want to join in that and see what that's all about, come on over to Twitch sometime on a Wednesday at about 8:30. And you can join this also. I do stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday on Twitch. So if you do want to join the conversation or hang out, do that sometime. Links are in the description down below. But let me know down in the comments down below what you think about Crunchtime, what you've heard, if you know any developers. Or if you are a developer, please let me know. If you don't want to leave in the comments down below, please send me a DM or something like that. I would absolutely love to talk to you about what Crunchtime means today in 2020, because the only reference I have is to something in 2004. Thank you very much. I love you guys. You guys rock. Until I see you next time, please keep on living the dream. Oh!